Thank you, Nazia. Our next section of this event tonight will consist of question and answer. So if you guys want to get your questions ready, just to be clear, and we don't expect you to memorize everyone's name, so but we do encourage you to, if you have a question directed toward a specific delegate, we encourage you to be specific about that. Otherwise, we'll use our best discretion and kind of direct our question towards who we think you intend. On the far right, I'm sorry, on the far left, your far left, we have Eric, and then we have Farheen, and Max, and then Riley, Hassan, and Nazia. So, who wants to go first? Someone, if you think it's you. Yes, Stu.
So I want to ask Farheen, in the recent 60 Minutes, you mentioned Qatar. In the recent 60 Minutes show, the emir of Qatar stated that everybody can get a free higher education, including women. And I had an opportunity to meet with the emir's daughter in New York City at the Qatari mission. She has a master's degree from the London School of Economics. And she's held the real UN Security Council. She said her priority, and she's the daughter of the emir, her priority is women's rights. So that would lead me to think the leadership of Qatar wants equality of the genders is a high priority.
Well, the study that I referenced in my presentation, it just discusses that countries that have higher levels of oil production, that women are less encouraged to enter the workforce because women primarily serve in the industrial sector of the economy, whereas in oil-producing countries, they're geared more towards construction and retail. So that was the main idea of the article, and it didn't really single out Qatar. It was grouping it together with Saudi Arabia and Oman and Algeria and other countries. I'm not really sure what the specific cases in Qatar, but I don't really delve as much into that. But I don't know if that answers your question.
Further point on that, in case studies like that, oftentimes you'll be able to find exceptional individuals, especially because she's the daughter of a person in extreme power. The vast majority of individuals don't adhere to that. The statistics are usually derived from the whole population. So just because one individual is a violation of the norm doesn't mean that the norm isn't there. So I think that might be another point to be had in the article's favor.
To add on to that, the daughter of Fidel Castro is would actually follow this example. She's actually a very big proponent of rights for women and sexual minorities, yet the official policy of Cuba is opposite to that.
All right, thank you guys. All right, anyone else? It's got to be someone. Yes, sir.
I have a question for the last speaker. You mentioned a phrase, I think it was a sentence, when society asks for it. I was wondering, where do you draw the line, and what does that exactly mean? When does society, what points out that society needs help, exactly?
So basically, what I'm talking about, for example, is that, for instance, with Libya, where we saw certain human rights violations, it was actually the Libyan people who asked the Security Council to step in on their behalf and submit a arrest warrant for their leader, Gaddafi, who was violating so many of these human rights. So basically what I'm talking about is that in these major crises regarding human rights, it is very possible for the international community to step in with the permission of the people who are being affected by it.
So would you consider Iraq, the people asking for it, would that be society asking for help? Or Afghanistan?
Well, in the case of Iraq and Afghanistan, we saw the U.S. stepping in before those people never asked the U.S. to say, they never said, hey, come in here, come on, let's have fun, and, get your military involved. That's not what those people were asking for, and we saw in the case of Afghanistan and Iraq, it was vastly unsuccessful because there was a lot of internal opposition. And that's why I'm saying it's so detrimental to certain societies for people to step in before those societies are ready for it, because these societies feel that their human rights and their rights as people are being violated, and they feel alienated by it. And they're less willing to comply with these new standards just because it's not their cultural norm.
Thank you.
If I could chime in and say one thing, I'd like to add that in political science, a lot of people feel that if government is unjust and corrupt and doesn't represent the people, that's enough reason for revolt.
Isn't that from the United States, not from other countries?
Yeah, that was coined from the United States, but I mean, I feel like that could be expanded to other places as well. And yeah, even if they don't carry that view now, it's one that we look upon.
Thank you, guys. I do want to encourage our panelists to come up here, so if someone has questions. Oh, yeah?
He was talking about like Islamic law in like Middle Eastern countries, like gender equality. Is that you? You said that like the more religiously conservative countries that don't have oil are more gender equality. But under Islamic law, don't they prohibit like women from doing certain? I'm not sure, but don't they actually in their like constitution under Islamic law, don't they prohibit women from doing certain things?
That is actually a false misconception. I think that's perpetuated by Western cultures, that they want to say that Islam says that, but it's actually nowhere in the Quran. That I, as a Muslim woman, do not believe in that. It is not in the Quran. In fact, the Prophet of Islam, his wife was actually superior to him, that she was a wealthy business owner, and that is why he married her. He respected her for her independence. And it's a cultural belief that people confuse with Islam. It's not a religion. It's something that predates Islam in these regions.
It's not in the religion, but is it in any of the countries? Like, any of the countries have laws against like women, making them more equal?
Countries like Saudi Arabia, in the past, they have prohibited women, but I think it was Max who mentioned that they are making more progressive laws expanding the vote to women. So there is progress being made to modernize and deviate from these traditional patriarchal institutions.
Kind of adding on to that, I think it's really important that we make a careful distinction between cultural values and religious values. And what we see in, for example, the Sharia law, it wasn't actually religious law, but it came into place, this whole concept of Sharia law, years and years after the birth of the religion itself. And it was something that was kind of compiled like 2 or 3 centuries afterwards. So it doesn't necessarily reflect those religious values, but rather cultural norms and cultural values.
But there is, it doesn't reflect religious values, but there's still
there is institutionalized.
Yeah, it's institutionalized.
The question to ask there is, does that not carry backwards into Western societies? During, say, like 1200s through the 1600s, when there was Ottoman rule in the area, the Middle East was known as being very scientific, very egalitarian, very progressive society. At the time that the Catholic churches and Protestant churches were ruling Europe with an iron fist and basically saying, witch hunts every other day. Let's go on, and find all the pagans. Let's burn them. Let's burn all the women.